All right, guys, the leaves are starting to fall. And of course, try to start my old Jet-Aire blower vac here. Basically, I guess a clone of the Little Giants, or maybe this one was made first. Whatever. Has an old 5-horse Briggs & Stratton. The motor was running great for years. Now I have no spark. It's always been a pain in the ass to start, though, guys. So I'm not going to dig that far into it. I'm just going to try to rip it off, repower it. I've had this Honda GC160. I believe it's roughly the same horsepower, but these things start and run amazing, guys. I barely pulled the pull start on this thing, and it's running beautifully. So I'm going to walk you through it. I'm going to try to rip this motor off, pull the front off, unscrew the blower, and I'm praying that the shafts are similar in size. Ideally, if they're not, maybe this one's a little smaller and I could just come up with a bushing. If it's larger, then I'm gonna have to bore out the inside of the blade inside, but we'll see once we get into it. All right, I pulled the cover off in the front. First problem I got here is one of the spot welds pulled apart. Easy fix. Side project number one. Number two, looking inside, looks like they just welded a couple of plates kind of perpendicular to the back plate. I'm gonna try to get this center bolt out, and then we'll see about pulling the housing off. All right, we got the big cover off. You can see here, looks like this is threaded on the inside. I'm gonna see, it looks like a fine thread. I'll probably get a tap and die set, see if I can run a tap in there just to clean it up a little. And then I got to find a bolt. You run the bolt in, I'm assuming, and it just pushes on the shaft of the engine, and it's its own puller. Have the top disconnected here. I'm going to try to leave the housing on if I can, for the most part. And I got all the bolts disconnected for the engine. So it's a 1/2 inch 20, guys. Fine thread on a 1/2 inch. Just running this in, cleaning it up. And now the fun begins, because all the 1/2 inch stuff I have are usually coarse thread. So got to try to find one. If I can't, I don't know, I could possibly try to use the tap. Maybe spray a bunch of WD-40 in there and pray for the best. Maybe some heat on the housing. I really don't want to break these taps. These are my Snap-on tap and dies. I love these things. My next best idea is to maybe take a larger bolt, or take a 1/2 inch bolt, cut off the coarse threads, and then machine fine threads onto it. Try something along that route. All right, so got a little bit lucky here, guys. Found this long rod here. It's threaded nice, 1/2 inch 20. That side I had better luck with. So basically I'm going to thread this in. I'm going to start with a vice grip. If I can hold it with the vice grip and get it to pull loose, I'm going to go that route. If not, I'm either going to weld a bar onto this and I could get some leverage on it, or I'll cut it and kind of like weld a nut or weld something so I could turn it with a ratchet. All right, guys, so that idea worked great. Just one slight problem. Completely ripped off the nut. I was supposed to push against the nut. The original welds did not hold, and it's dead frozen on there. So I even tried welding a little bit just on the housing, kind of, all rusted up, but I just wanted to get some heat into it, hoping it would expand a little. Did not expand, and like you can see, I don't know if I showed this, I just welded this bar on to get some leverage. My next idea, I'm going to try with the Sawzall to cut the shaft of the motor off in the back. And then it's looking like, without putting a mic to it, you look at that, and you look at this shaft. Very similar, but I think the Honda engine is a little bit larger. So I'll actually end up taking this off, mounting it into Bridgeport, and I'll just mill it out to the right size anyway. So not the end of the world. Not gonna lie to you guys, the Sawzall was an absolute waste of time. I had 3 or 4 new blades. They just was barely cut the shaft at all. I guess the crankshaft's a little bit hardened. So had this blade left over from a chop saw from years ago. Put it on my little grinder. I had a grinder, literally an old don't know if it was a Rockwell or a Sears. I don't know what the hell it was. I had one of them old aluminum giant grinders. It literally just finally kicked the bucket on me. But anyway, so threw this on here. Sketchiest thing I've ever done. Cut through the shaft like butter. Now I'm gonna try to mount it just like that in the Bridgeport and see if I could bore it out to the size of this guy. All right, this is the next setup, guys. Got my Norse Magnum drills here. I'm just gonna step up a little bit at a time. I just brought this one through. Luckily it's not that hard that a drill bit can't cut it. Chips are coming off pretty good. All right, there's a piece of steel I found, guys. I'm gonna chuck this up in the 3-jaw and I'm gonna mill it down. I'm gonna make it sort of like a bushing for the end of the impeller. Then I'm gonna run that bolt through and I'm gonna hope for the best on this one. Guys, come along pretty good. So I know that the small diameter right here is very concentric with the center of the lathe because I just cut it. Also this face right here. This outside part I'm not sure of because it was held in a 3-jaw chuck. So what I'm gonna do is spin this around and I'm gonna mount it in a collet. So now I know I'm spinning it true. And then I'll machine this down a little bit and I'll drill the hole through on this side. All right, so you guys can pretty much see how out around this outer edge is and this face is. That was, you know, how I held it in the 3-jaw chuck. So I knew this wouldn't be true. This back face is, and the other smaller shaft is, like I had just said. So anyway, I'm just gonna come in, clean these two up, and then I'll drill that center. All right, guys, just so you have an idea of what I'm doing, that's my center bolt. It's gonna go just like that. Screw in there. But just wanted to show you guys the idea here. This is gonna slide in there. Got a nice tight fit, as you can see. And I'm gonna put it back in the lathe now, bore the center, And we should be done. Really doesn't matter if I leave this overhanging a little bit like that, which I think I'm gonna do. Bore the center, put the bolt, probably Loctite this, some blue Loctite, and put a washer and a lock nut on the outside.